In John chapter 8, it reads, "He appeared again in the temple courts. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, 'Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?' Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, 'Let any one of you who's without sin be the first to throw a stone at her.' Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away, one at a time, until only Jesus was left with the woman, still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, 'Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?' 'No one, sir,' she said. 'Then neither do I condemn you,' Jesus declared. 'Go now and leave your life of sin.'" So what was it that Jesus wrote in the dust? There's a wonderful article by Daniel Esparza that gives his unique view of Christ's mercy and grace. Some think Jesus was writing down the names of the woman's accusers. Others think he was writing down the sins of the accusers themselves to show them that no one is without sin. The important thing is not only the words that Jesus wrote, but also the fact that he wrote them in the dust. According to the law of Moses, the priests were required to write down the law that had been broken, the names of the accused, both the man and the woman in cases of adultery, the punishment for the crime, and it all had to be written on a temporary surface that would guarantee that the marks were not permanent. Therefore, the dust of the floor of the temple was the most common place to do so. Jesus was showing everyone that even though the commandments were indeed written in stone, his mercy does away with sin. The law endures, but sin is forgiven. By writing in the dust, Jesus was not only reminding her accusers of this merciful gesture, he was also strictly adhering to the proper procedure, showing the accusers that even if they would not keep the law, he would. John records Jesus writing on the ground not once but twice. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any one of you who's without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." These were Pharisees and teachers of the law, so these accusers surely understood they were now the ones being judged. Jesus exposed her accusers spiritually naked before the crowd. Each man standing there knew his own life was full of sin too. Then the second time Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground, those who heard him all began to walk away one at a time, until only Jesus was left standing there with the woman. In their self-righteousness, the accusers came to Jesus, but they walked away in self-defeated shame. The accusers became the accused. To the woman he asked, "Where are your accusers?" then tells her to go and leave her life of sin. When you come to Jesus and ask him for forgiveness, he gladly washes your sins away, making your heart and your life clean as if the sins were never there, not permanent, just like writing in the dust on the temple floor. He will say to you as the same he did to the woman, "Go now, leave your life of sin." The Pharisees brought the woman to be condemned, but as Jesus always does, his focus went to the hurting, the one that was needing his attention. There she stood, caught in adultery before him in disgrace, but instead of condemnation, he extends to her his divine grace. And your own story, the part you hate the most, doesn't have to define your whole story. You're more than the sins of your past. Jesus' grace extends to you and will forgive you from all unrighteousness. Your past mistakes and failures can be forgiven. That's why he came. That's why he died. He's able if you'll just call on him and ask him to forgive your sins, never to be remembered again.